Hello and welcome to another speed painting where I try to replicate this face on my own. You see, I chose this picture because I was like, I already have this picture in my computer and it's saved, and I need to work on doing like turned portraits. That's not what ended up happening. I think once it's like I do it digitally, like do art digitally, I just think about like, oh, I have to do a final piece and I don't think about sketching. That's my fault. Oops. But yeah, so I try to work out a bit of the structure for this female's face. And we start by the circle that's supposed to be like roughly the skull, and then the center line that should go in between her eyes, about halfway her nose. And I try to aim for like the little, is that called the bow of the lip, where it basically forms an inverted triangle. The top lip forms an inverted triangle. So then that'd be the center line, and that'd be part of the guide. Now here you'll realize that I paused for a very long time. My stylus has been acting up. It's battery operated, which and sometimes it just doesn't connect or something, so it just doesn't allow me to work. And I had to pause for a very long time, but they become unnoticeable in the future because I speed up the painting. But I just want to explain a few things here. So I just work on basic structures. I don't focus too much on the curves and stuff. Instead, I go more straight lines, and it's not as organic as a face usually is. So I started off with there so that I roughly know, like, oh, here's the center line and the basic form of the skull and the face. We start going through some anatomy things afterwards, though, like where should the eyes be, and how should the lips be formed, and then we will get into sketching the rough version of this picture, and then I will get to speed painting it. So now we're adding in the horizontal sections once again. So approximately, it's halfway between the top of the head to the chin. That would be your eyes, roughly, and then you have halfway between your eyes to the chin is your nose, and then halfway between the nose and the chin is the bottom of the lip. I also mark the eyes because the proportions I find is roughly like the pupil of the eyes is where the corners of your lips are. So that's what I was marking out vertically. So I wrote these things here. Corner of lips equals approximately the pupils of the eyes. And that the 3 lines, the horizontal lines for the eyes, bottom of the nose, and bottoms of the lips are going to be parallel to each other for, I believe, most angles. It's true in this piece, but we'll find out in other pieces when I actually sketch and practice digitally. I'm roughly marking out like the shoulders and stuff, just the body of the human fellow mortal. But yeah, that's just, maybe I'm just killing time. One thing for sure, I don't keep this as like a sketch for me to work off of. I sort of do a brand new sketch afterwards. But the process of actually sketching faces and doing like rendering them, I find I take 2 different approaches. So I do sketch when I render, but it's very loose, and then I'll start off at one section and build outwards from there. So usually I start off from the nose because that's the center of the face, and then I can sketch out and start doing the eyes, and that helps me to proportion the face, the rest of the face and stuff. I'm noting here the curves of her face, especially on the right side, so our right, her left, how it goes sort of bowing outwards, and then it sort of goes inwards, and then it goes straight down, and it's angular towards the jaw. So that's what I'm basically marking out, and I draw a bit more details of that sketching wise. But yeah, that's the process of me rendering, is just start from the nose and then I can work my way outwards. Especially the gap between the temple and the eyes, that sort of helps me shape the face a bit more when I'm rendering it. And can I just say, for the future, ears are hard. Well, her ear especially, just at the angle that it's at. I had a bit of a difficult time with it. Anyway, so here I'm just marking, like, I'm sort of exaggerating the shape of her face. Oh, that's scary. What have I done? Anyways, blocking that out of my life, like most of my problems. The curves of her face and then the lines of it, so just so I get a rough idea, and I'm sort of just making her face more basic so I can comprehend it, because I have small brain. But yeah, so curves of the face. This isn't an overly optimistic channel. This is just me being me, unfortunately. Anyways. So yeah, and I'm just, the nose I break down. Usually I either break it down into 3 circles and a triangle, or a triangle and an oval. It varies a lot. And I find dark areas is a good place to sort of set lines too, because they're going to be covered up by the dark color that you're going to lay down, but B, it helps to also separate and segment the piece so then it's more bearable to deal with. So I start speeding the painting up, by the way, so then this isn't an 4 hours video that it took me to actually do this. So I just roughly draw the sketch, and then I do base coats. And I start with darkest and the lightest tones, or sort of like a bit darker than the lightest tone, but like a base coat, basically. And then by far already, the skin tone that I use to shade and stuff, instead of doing color picker directly from the reference photo, I used my own judgment, and it turned out a lot better than it previously did, as you could see. It was rough. So it's a lot of going back and forth between colors too, using the color picker a lot, which is why you are recommended to have a keyboard when you do digital art, so then you can pick colors easier, because blending with like just a regular brush sort of loses texture that you might want in your speed painting. So the other thing that I'm noting as I'm watching this through again, I'm noting how there is actually slight differences between the backgrounds. In the initial one, I just did a solid, I think a navy blue background, but this sort of looks more like a greenish, and the top left corner is darker than going to the right bottom corner. So that actually helps the piece a bit, and once I noticed it, it made sense as to where the separation of her face is from the background. Now another thing you'll note is that the eyes aren't stark white. The reason is because your eyes aren't actually purely white. So it helps to sort of do like a grayish blue tone, I find. Those are the usual color tones I lean towards eyes instead of keeping it like a reddish gray or something like that. I just find it neater. And I also choose to use a rougher brush for the clothes. And I choose to do a bit of cross-hatching so that it looks more like woven fabric instead of just smooth. And it breaks up the texture a bit. I found the lashes to be difficult, but it's actually something that set the eye apart from the actual skin, and it helped to create that contrast and that sort of like eyeliner, just like a separation from the skin to the eye and add that contrast. So it was important for this piece, but yeah, it was pretty fun overall in general. So the other thing that I found helpful, especially when drawing from a reference, is to have a navigator, which you could see here. That helps you look at it from a zoomed out perspective, and then it helps you sort of see like, oh, there's this like this striking difference between the reference and the portrait that you could correct from the distance, such as like the darkness, where the shadows are, and things like that. So that sort of helped, and especially to see like, oh, from a distance, this is what it will look like, because apparently people tend to look at art from a distance first. Now here's my struggle, is the ear, because her ears has like this bit of a pinkish tone, and I was like, do I add a bit of a pink tone? But then it might be a bit strange if I don't incorporate it in other places, but then the darkest tone, it might look a bit too bland. But in the end, I think think I chose to keep it a bit more cohesive and just add a hint of blush to her right cheek to our left side, just so then it's a bit more pink, and then I can use that to balance out the ear. The hair was interesting, by the way. The color picking was a bit weird to use the color picker, so I went off by judgment. But I find hair to be pretty fun. Usually I just color it, as you can see, a base layer, and then I will choose thinner brushes as I go between shades, just so then it looks more like individual strands of hair instead of, you know, just this shaded mass. That might be someone's style, but it didn't really work for realism. I found this section to be interesting to do because I was like, well, if I don't choose a thin enough brush, it doesn't look like hair, but if I choose like too thin, then it's gonna take me forever. So yeah, I found that pretty interesting to try and match the picture. I'm not gonna lie, these might be the best eyebrows I've ever done in my life. And then I saw in the reference picture, like the space between the eyes and the eyebrows was a bit larger and a bit smaller. I think at this point I had to readjust too, so we fixed that. The hair is a bit darker, so I fixed that as well. When I look back between like this piece and the old piece though, this piece is significantly better, so that's a good thing. And this is the closing. Here is the first piece that I've done of this reference photo, and then the second piece, end results. Anyways, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, or if you just like the single video, then just hit like and it will help support the channel. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.